Okay, so where do you want to start? It's the day before free agency. All kinds of rumors, all kinds of talk. Players hitting, players signing. Players shopping for offer sheets. I've been told there's two. At least two that are looking for offer sheets right now. Where to go, what to get to today. We have a lot to get to today. A lot of it's going to revolve around what we're going to see tomorrow. And do not forget, tomorrow is our free agent special at our Daily Face-Off YouTube page. That is right here where you're watching this show. Tyler Yaremchuk, Hart Levine, who's going to be on the program today. He is the curator and genius behind PuckPedia. Carter Hutton, Matthew Barnaby, Johnny Lazarus, Colby Cohen, Stephen Ellis, Matt Larkin, cast of thousands on the program tomorrow. Hope you can join us starting at 11 a.m. Eastern and going, right now it says we're going to go to 2:30, but who's kidding who? We're just going to breeze through the afternoon until things stop, I would imagine. Anyhow, hope you can join us tomorrow. So we have rumors of tampering charges. We have Sam Bennett signing. We have the Anaheim Ducks trading John Gibson to the Detroit Red Wings. Then we see the Anaheim Ducks re-signing with Ville Husso. Hey, by the way, Zach, just as a quick note here, there were, I kind of had to laugh. There were 40 games, okay, with the St. Louis Blues where Ville Husso was a .919 goaltender. That was his save percentage, his average for those 40 games. Mm-hmm. Since then, he's always been sub 900 in the 3 years he was with the Detroit Red Wings, maybe 4. Had 4 games with the Anaheim Ducks last year. He was a .925. That's very small, of course. That's 4 games. But he's always been a sub 900% goaltender. $21 million. It's awesome. There's the game of hockey. There's the game of hockey, and then there's the real game of hockey. Ville Husso is winning the real game of hockey. And there's going to be a lot of players that win the real game of hockey tomorrow, and that is set yourself up. Get yourself paid. Secure the bag. What do the kids say these days? Secure the bag was the last one that I heard.
Secure the bag.
Is there something a little more hip, a little more modern, a little more current that I should be aware of, Zach Phillips?
I think it's still secure the bag. I think that's the most current one that's going. But also, I'm getting older now, so maybe I'm behind the curve. I'm going to find out. I'm going to have my little cousins tell me, no, you're missing this. But secure the bag, that's the one that I know. Yeah. All
right. So what else do we have here today? We're waiting on a lot of players here, certainly. Mm-hmm. And we'll find out a lot tomorrow, although the NHL at the beginning of this year really sent out a strongly worded and stern memo reminding teams of the consequences of tampering. What? Gambling here at Casablanca? Yes, we all know that it happens, but I think the NHL is kind of we know it happens, but if we catch you, the punishment is going to be swift and severe. But nonetheless, we wonder about Nick Ehlers of the Winnipeg Jets, and I wonder if there's a sign and trade on offer for Nick Ehlers of the Winnipeg Jets. We shall see where that goes. We wonder about Brad Marchand. We wonder about Aaron Ekblad. We wonder about Vladislav Gavrikov. We wonder about John Klingberg, Nate Schmidt, Ivan Provorov. We wonder about Pat Kane, Michael Granlund, Jonathan Troy, and Andrei Kuzmenko, and Corey Perry. Perry's an interesting name. Corey Perry's an interesting name. I wonder if Corey Perry was thinking that there's a market out there maybe for something in the neighborhood of $3 million. And there might be. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But if Edmonton can't bring him back, and Edmonton's right up against it, and Edmonton still has business to do as well. If Edmonton can't bring him back, and I'm still, and maybe naively, I'm still of the belief that that's where Corey Perry wants to go and Corey Perry wants to return to the Oilers. I just don't know whether they can meet a price for him. And it's the Oilers, and they're so close, and they're right there, but they have scraps for cap space, and they have business to do to try to bring in a new netminder. By the way, I have not been told that their goaltending coach Dustin Schwartz has been extended or not. So I don't know whether that is going to be one of the moves we hear announced, but everybody's pretty quiet around that issue right now. We'll see what happens in the next 24 hours. But if Corey Perry does go to market, Well, a couple of teams that I wonder about, and I threw this out on Twitter X today. Now that Glenn Gulletson is in Texas with the Dallas Stars, I wonder about a return there. I also wonder about him going to the Los Angeles Kings. Let's not forget that it was Ken Holland originally who brought Corey Perry to Edmonton in the first place. I do imagine he would stay in the Western Conference. Although him going to the Florida Panthers sure would be juicy. But we'll see. It's one of the more intriguing names. Like, these are all the things that are going to get batted around and discussed and chewed and debated tomorrow, 11 o'clock Eastern, on our Daily Face-Off free agent special hosted by Tyler Yaremchuk tomorrow. Who are you most curious about, and why is it Mitch Marner?
Well, I mean, watching this unfold over the weekend of like, there's a trade on the table, there's something being developed here, and then all of a sudden it was like someone that put out on their podcast that
Elliot Friedperson. Elliot Friedperson.
that guy was talking about the tampering stuff that was going on, and then it was like, whoa. All of a sudden it was quiet over in that front, everything that was going on. It was like, oh, what happened there? I don't know. I do think it would be interesting because we all know that everybody's... Okay, well, let me rephrase this. We all believe that everybody is speaking to each other already. I find it. I just find it hard to believe.
Or through
that,
other people. Or through other people. Yeah.
It's always just so interesting that like at 12:01 there's like $8 million deals being announced.
Well, I used to always laugh. Like, remember when the Chara deal was done? Like, one of the most sophisticated contracts of the day. Really sophisticated, big money, big ticket deal with the Boston. 12:01. 12:01. That thing. Like, but there's plenty more. Like, long gone are the days where at 12:01 Eastern there are 3 players on a stage already there with their new jerseys and their new contracts. The NHL knows how much of a bad look that is. Now, another thing we should point out too. Oh, you know what? Let's get into what's happening on the program today. Because I want to mention one more thing. About that discussion week the NHL used to have, and how teams used to, quote unquote, use/abuse it. Anyway, welcome to the program today on the all new Daily Face-Off. Glad to have you aboard. Daily Outline is powered by FanDuel. Make every moment more with North America's #1 sportsbook. Our friends at FanDuel. I very much look forward to the end of the program where Zach comes up with something creative that he's found on FanDuel, as there are no games to discuss. Mentioned Hart Levine coming up. He is the founder and the brains behind and the network that never sleeps behind PuckPedia. He'll be joining us tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern for our Daily Face-Off free agent special, and he'll be joining us here in about 2 to 3 minutes on the sheet. Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects will stop by. We'll talk about the draft. I don't want to spend too much time treating the whole event like a piñata because the NHL was handed a tough bill of goods by some owners and a majority of general managers who wanted it that way. We should spend a little bit of time talking about that, and we'll discuss the teams who did well and the prospects who now find themselves with brand new squads. We'll talk about free agency. We'll talk about the draft recap with Cam Robinson, and we'll talk about trades, and we are expecting, and it might happen at any moment here, Zach. It might happen any moment here between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Toronto Maple Leafs over Mitch Marner. Do I have time to talk about the discussion week, or do we have Hart?
I got Hart set up here.
Okay, give me 2 seconds here. Hart, stand by. Going to be with you in a couple of seconds here. Hart Levine from PuckPedia, the co-founder of the Brainchild. So here's how it worked, and I liked this idea to sort of get around the idea of the T word, tampering.
Soft tampering or real hard tampering?
Hard tampering, gentle tampering, passive tampering, lowercase t tampering, however you want to phrase it. They had that week where you're allowed to talk to the impending free agents, and what we found was teams were using it just to gather information. And if I were a manager, I would have done the same thing. I would have talked to every single free agent and just talked about, so what's this guy like? What do you know about that guy? What's this team like? What kind of systems does this play? What's this guy like on and off the ice? I would have done the exact same thing. I just would have used it as an information gathering exercise, and that's kind of what this thing turned into. Nonetheless, teams have been reminded, tampering bad. PuckPedia, good. You want to talk about a great resource that we all use. And listen, PuckPedia is near and dear to my heart. That's something that is, that's a tab that is always open. Like, I'm not sure about you. Like that is one that we all have open 24/7. And someone that keeps that thing powered and fueled and updated is Hart Levine, the genius, the brains behind PuckPedia. Hart joins me now. How's that for an introduction? Did I hit all the bullet points here? The creator, the nerve center, the nucleus, the driver.
I need some color correction. I'm turning to red. You got to fix the color. Wow, thank you so much.
Don't worry. We'll start to knock you down a peg.
Bring it back down
in
now.
A second. Yeah. All right. Yeah. This guy doesn't know a wrist shot from a wristwatch. I don't know what he's doing on this program. He's got a fancy logo. Listen, thanks so much for stopping by. Very much looking forward to working with you tomorrow. As we all say here, and everybody in the industry has admired your work for a long time. You have a lot to be proud of with PuckPedia. I started the show off by saying, we're looking at free agents, we're looking at trades, we're looking at offer sheets, we're looking at sign and trades, like all kinds of things that you keep track of on PuckPedia. As we head into the official day of negotiations with free agents, clears throat again for effect. What are you most curious about? Hart, you've done this plenty of times now.
That's a good question. And again, thank you so much for the kind words. I'm really curious to see if the deals will maybe trickle out a little later than when the bell opens on July 1st last year.
Yes.
I think which prompted the memo was, it was just like boom, boom, boom. There were a lot of deals known that were out within the first couple of minutes. I wonder if, people are a little more careful and it comes out a little slower. That'll be one thing. Another thing that I'm really interested in, maybe not around tampering, but guys looking at extensions. We usually see a bunch of extensions on July 1st.
Yep.
This year, that was really interesting. So players that have 1 year left on their contract, it's a really unique time. They can sign for 8 years with their team, or if they wait till next summer and go to market, they're only signing for 6 years with a new team.
Correct.
So it's the first time it's really like a 2-year difference for those players that have a year left on their contract. So that's really something I'm interested in seeing. Like, are we going to see a bunch of those 8-year deals, which we would often see, or maybe there'll be less of them, more of them? That's something for me to watch.
It's an interesting wrinkle, and coming off the draft, like, listen, a lot of us had questions about all the information that's trickled out about what's going to be in the new CBA. And just as a quick detour here, I knew we were going to get here in this conversation, so let's have it now. It seems as if, and outside of dress code, I'm trying to find a place where the players actually won something in this. As one veteran of the CBA wars said to me this weekend, as he sort of perused all the information that is contained, and still more info is trickling out, he said, "This is a CBA done by ChatGPT." He's like, I don't see anything. I don't really see anything in here, and I certainly don't see anything here from the NHL Players Association. And one of the things too is like everything is. It seems that the system now, Hart, is becoming more and more restrictive, is ruling more and more on the owner's side of things. Like, I don't know where all this is headed, and this is going to be a 4-year extension, which will take us a 5-year, labor and ownership piece here. But just as a quick aside, when you looked at some of the details, does it seem to you as if, you're taking a breath and the python is squeezing that much more every time you exhale on this thing?
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment, and that's definitely agents are feeling the same thing. The most common thing I heard is, "What did we get out of this?" They did get some wins. They got some of the like employer taxes that anyone that has a paycheck, employers pay.
Yeah.
In the way that the CBA is working now, those actually came out of the player's share, so that's now not going to be in the player's share. But when you add up the math, it's like less than 0.1% of the revenue pie. So you could say maybe they were really at 49.9% before, and now they're at 50.0. So it's something, it's small. And then the playoff bonus pool, it seems like a big number, several million more, but when you break it down, like by guy, a guy that wins the cup is maybe getting an extra $100,000, which, hey, I'll take that. But for when you're making millions, that's probably not a life changer. And then there's, to your point, there's a lot of things that I think that the owners of League One, and in terms of that was on their wish list. The term limits at one point was a hill to die on for Bill Daly, right? So they got that reduced. And then you get some in the bucket of who the hell even wanted that? Which was like, to me, the stopping the double retention. I can't find one person that knows who wanted that. Why did anybody want that? Like, what is the benefit of having less trade deadline action? It spurs movement. It spurs excitement in the league. There's a lot of people that follow sports that don't even watch the games. They just like the transaction aspect of it, right? And so why are we going to reduce that? The LTIR piece also is going to reduce some deadline transactions. I understand like why we needed something there. We can talk about like, was this the best way? But yeah, getting rid of the double retention at the same time, that's really hard to understand what the benefit of that is.
I've never heard anyone complain about it on either side. Yeah. It's something that I've never heard anyone grouse about.
The rare lose-lose in a negotiation piece, right?
I mean, everyone seems fine with it. Teams seem fine with it. Players have no problem with it. That one is. Oh, now, one thing I want before we, and I don't know if we can revisit CBA talk. I tend to hear people sort of glaze over when you get too deep into the CBA. Take it to the beach, folks. When it gets published, take the CBA to the beach. You really want to be a party of one. Take the collective bargaining agreement to the beach and enjoy yourself. Bob McKenzie, who when he does come back, drops bombs. See hurdle deal, Vegas Golden Knights. Bob McKenzie reporting all signs point to Aaron Ekblad and Florida making progress on a long-term deal that, assuming it's finalized, would take the veteran defenseman out of free agency. Now, that's a whopper. You know, Bill Zito has said, you know, there is a way for us to re-sign the big three. They did Bennett 8x8. According to Bob McKenzie, it looks like Aaron Ekblad and the Panthers are making progress here. We wonder about Brad Marchand, of course, through all of it. But I can see a lot of teams that if Aaron Ekblad is off the market, I can see Utah saying, damn. I could see the Los Angeles Kings saying, damn. I could see the little Columbus Blue Jackets who are trying to find someone, like desperately finding a right-hand shot to play with Danton Matejchuk saying, damn. I could also see Vladislav Gavrikov saying, ooh, this is juicy now for me.
All of a sudden. Matt Grizzly, 40 points, highest scoring defenseman out there. Yeah. It's a thin market for D.
You take one off, and all of a sudden, a lot of other players become juicy. What do you make of the Bob McKenzie report with Aaron Ekblad if he indeed is going off market?
That's interesting. It was already a thin D market, like I mentioned. I mean, Matt Grizzly, probably the most offensive player out there. And then, I wonder if an Orlov or Provorov, I don't think the doors are closed on either of those players re-signing with their team. So that could also reduce the market. Brent Burns at a ripe age of 40, I think he's definitely getting a contract and he's looking more and more attractive to teams, right? And how about even a guy like a Nick Perbix, coming from the Lightning? Certainly wasn't on anybody's like top target list, but he's like really, I'm looking, he's one of the only guys under 30 for scoring defensemen, like him and Ryan Lindgren, but he's got a little bit, maybe a touch more offense. So that'll be interesting to see on the D market, how the dominoes fall. The first thing I thought of when you mentioned that is, what does that mean for Marchand? Like, are they going to be able to get all three, or it always seemed like that would be tough and one person is going to be squeezed out. We all assumed it was Ekblad. So now Marchand, is he going to be a Leaf or a Mammoth or, someone else?
That's an interesting one here. Again, this is going to test everything that Bill Zito has. Like, I'll be really curious to see where the decimal point is on Aaron Ekblad if they can get it done. Interesting note, you mentioned Ivan Provorov. I think that he wants to go back to Columbus. I really do. Like, I think that he likes it there. I mentioned earlier they're looking for someone to play with Danton Matejchuk. It seems as if one of the issues with the Blue Jackets is, what do they do with that Damon Severson contract, which right now is really holding up a lot of things that Don Waddell wants to do at that back end. Would that be fair? That be fair to you?
Yeah, I think when they went for Severson, remember that was a sign and trade as well. They wanted to add to their D. They added Provorov, but it doesn't seem like it quite worked out. So yeah, they want to add to it, and at some point you might have to subtract. I mean, the one thing is, I'm looking right now, they have $28.5 million of cap space, plenty of room. And so, I guess it doesn't hurt to bump a guy like Christensen down, out of your depth chart. But I think that they're players. They definitely seem to recognize that you build from the D out. And they locked up Fabro too, which I think he would have had quite a bit of interest on the market. So definitely a team to watch at D.
So I threw out there the Corey Perry this afternoon on Twitter X, and a couple of things that I wonder about here. One, as much as he might want to go back, and as much as Edmonton might want him to go back, I'm not sure that they have. Bluntly, I don't think I'm not sure they have the money to bring him back. They're right up against the salary cap, and they have business to do with their net mining situation. As I said too, I still don't have any clarity if Dustin Schwartz is coming back as a goalie coach of the Edmonton Oilers. That may be one piece of the goalie puzzle with the Edmonton Oilers. But nonetheless, back to Corey Perry. With Glenn Gulutzon in Dallas, his Edmonton coach, one of his Edmonton coaches, and with Ken Holland in Los Angeles, who brought Corey Perry to LA in the first place. I wonder if Corey Perry does make it to market tomorrow. Those would be a couple of potential landing spots. I mean, how much brain power have you used on Corey Perry in the last 24 hours, Hart?
I've used some, yeah. I think what's interesting, like a guy like Corey Perry, I mean, if you take his age away, I mean, the guy had a really good playoffs, and he had 19 goals, 30 points in the regular season. And then he's probably looking at contracts, for like a Jamie Benn, even like a Claude Giroux, and thinking, hey, like, why do I need to sign for just $1 million? With like last year, he was, I think, 1.15 and 250,000 in bonuses. Like, why do I have to settle for that? The flip side of that is he is 40. He's 100 million plus career earnings. And so should you be picking the place where you're going to enjoy the hockey the most, have the best chance to win? And really, like, when you made 100 million, it doesn't matter if you get paid 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million this year. It's easy for us to tell Corey Perry what to add to his bank account this season. So I see, like, from a market standpoint, he can get more from other places. Like you mentioned Dallas. I think there's some other Western teams that would be quite interested in him. So that'll be the trick. And I think for the Oilers, it's trying to bring the band back together at discounts, and knowing that they have there's a robust market. I think Connor Brown there's some long offers waiting for him on July 1st, probably more term and more dollars than he could get from Edmonton. So, like, that's another one. He seems like a great fit in the locker room. If you follow a little bit on social, you see he seems at all the weddings and parties with the teams and very well liked. He was overpaid 2 years ago, probably underpaid this last year. And so, where does he want to be? Does he want to get some security? And so that'll be another one to see. Does he go to the market? And then that also, if he leaves, Corey Perry leaves, maybe that does open up Edmonton to bring in someone else. I don't know if we're talking big name player, but potentially, more guys in that couple $1 million range.
Okay, so we'll follow the wedding theme. So Ivan Provorov was at Patrick Laine's wedding last week, so that means Provorov was going to Montreal then. Am I reading this right clearly?
You got it.
But then Zach Werenski's wedding is coming up, so maybe that means he's staying with Columbus. I'm so confused about this one, Hart. I don't know how to read the wedding tea leaves on where players are going to sign.
That's a whole beat. We need a wedding tea leaf beat.
Wedding insider, hockey wedding insider.
That's right.
Who's wedding, and where does that mean they're going? So listen, last summer it was Broberg and Holloway, and the St. Louis Blues making the big splash with the two offer sheets. I wondered off the top of the show. It sounds like there's at least a couple of players that are in the offer sheet market right now. Not exactly sure who they are, but I'm told there's a couple, which shouldn't surprise anybody. Do you think it's going to be a frisky offer sheet market this year, maybe more so than subsequent years where the salary cap is really going to go up and teams, are going to be comfortable saying, go ahead, offer sheet my guy. I got the cap space to match.
I think we're now going forward, we're in at least a state where agents can use it as a credible threat and use that to drive the price up. I mean, I think before, agents would threaten it and teams would kind of laugh, like, sure, like there's also a chance that a meteor is going to hit the building today, right? Like it just didn't really happen. And now it's far more credible. I think we're seeing it. Some of the RFAs that have already signed, you see that there's a little bit more pressure on them to do it. I think. Actually teams will be happy when some guys file for arbitration, which takes them off the board for offer sheets. Maybe we even see some team elected arbitration again to take them off the board for offer sheets. So there's definitely a threat of it. Will we see some of them happen? it's tough. I would, my over under, I'd say there's probably going to be one, just because, there's a good chance we'll see at least one. But I had quite a few guys on my potential list that are off the board, like a Maverick Bork. I thought would be a nice sneaky one. I think like a Jack Quinn maybe. And obviously we'd heard the Paterka rumblings. And you don't know, did they leverage that threat to get a deal? Even with Nyes, it didn't seem like he wanted to leave, but did he leverage that threat and pressure and, deadlines and pressure spurs on deals? Does that drive to a deal? I think like with Edmonton, there was probably some complacency last year thinking, hey, there's no rush. We have till training camp. Let's squeeze these guys and get them down, as close to $1 million or $1.5 million as possible. It didn't really occur to them that, hey, there's an offer sheet threat. And so now I just think teams won't have that mentality and something to think about. And then you look at like in New Jersey, Luke Hughes, who's not offer sheet eligible because he's what's called in the cap rule the 10-2C. He didn't play enough, doesn't have enough experience to actually be an official RFA. He's not eligible for an offer sheet. And maybe that contract, just when we look at it at the end of the offseason, does the Luke Hughes contract seem a little more team friendly than like maybe a Matthew Nyes contract, just knowing that there's that extra pressure or not having that pressure?
8 times 6.1 for Ekblad, according to Elliot. Haircut. Wow. A haircut to stay in Florida. Because he was where? 7.5 before, right?
Yeah.
I think he was 7.5, 7.6 with the Florida Panthers.
He was at 7.5. Yeah.
7.5.
He was 8 times 7.5 before.
So he takes
at 29 taking a haircut. Yeah.
What do you think the market would have been for? What do you think the market would have been for him? Like I keep looking at Utah, but
we looked at some of the D available. Like I think if you can put a guy in your top 4, maybe you could squint and see him as a top pairing guy. I mean, that's to me 7-8 million all day. You think he's got more upside? Maybe you get closer to 9. Like we're going to see a big number, I think, on Gavrikov, for example. I think Provorov's not going to sign for too little. So I think if you went to market, you're looking, in the 7s probably. Something to keep in mind, though, how would it affect the market is he did have that PD suspension right at the end of the season, and the teams discount for an injury. Do they discount for coming off a PD suspension? So I guess we won't find that out now. And Florida obviously had more inside knowledge into that situation than any other team would. So, but I think, that sound you hear are the agents for the other UFA defensemen going cha-ching, cha-ching, now that there's another guy off the board.
Wow. I'll tell you, Gavrikov looking better and better here. Now it's always, Brian Burke would always tell me, there's 2 times where managers always overpay. He'd always say, "Oh, we're idiots. There's 2 times of the year we always overpay for defensemen. One, trade deadline, and then we really shoot ourselves in the foot with defensemen on July 1st. Boy, we spent." This is my bad Brian Burke impression here. He always talks about how they always spend too much money on July 1st on defensemen. And I'm guessing, considering how everybody needs it, no one's got it, seemingly. We're going to see a lot of overpays here for D starting tomorrow.
I think it's like supply and demand. I think the other place we're going to see what feels like overpays is on the goalie market. Like you look at the UFA goalies, only 2 had a 900 save percentage, Jake Allen and Anton Forsberg. I think we're going to see guys that we're not quite sure if they're like number 2, maybe number 3 goalies getting a couple million plus. There's just so few goalies available. So that's the other area where, there's some scarcity and prices drive up, just like the Toronto housing market, right? Like it's all supply and demand.
Nice to slide that one in there. Okay, so of the names that are available, and we'll see what happens with Aaron Ekblad. It looks like he's staying with the Florida Panthers. So maybe they didn't need Seth Jones, Aaron Ekblad insurance after all. This wasn't like Justin Falk with Alex Pietrangelo insurance, which St. Louis ended up needing after all. How do you see the Mitch Marner situation right now? And there's the sidebar, of course, of tampering. I had a governor text me over the weekend saying, don't expect this one to go away anytime soon. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I've been hearing just like you that Vegas seemed like the front runner for the last week or two. There was still like a lot of talk that Dallas was sort of on Marner's list, and there was some interest on that side as well. So I kept hearing those are the teams, those California teams I think really wanted to get in the mix. Just never really seemed like there was a lot of buzz or traction, as a mutual fit, or that they were going to really be in the running. But it also been hearing he wanted short term. So when you hear sign and trade, obviously the reason to do a sign and trade other than to jump the market is to potentially get the 8 years from Toronto. So maybe he's had a change of thought there and wants the long-term deal. But it's interesting to see that, whenever there's a big person on the market, we always put Vegas down just automatically, and they're back at the plate swinging away again, right? Obviously, Pietrangelo, he's 8.8, probably on LTIR Island for the rest of his career. That always seems to work out. Like, again, these teams that always seem tight, how are they going to make it work? It always works out. And I think now we're also seeing there's so much cap space in the market. There's so many teams that want to get better that contracts that you used to have to pay a premium to move, I think, are much easier to move out now. I think we'll see a lot of that. I think we'll even see like a Carey Price contract potentially move before training camp. He's got a September 1st bonus, and then he's only at a $2 million salary after that. I mean, there's teams that need to get to the floor, or at least need to have a more respectable looking cap number. And if either they just do it for that, or they get a small asset from Montreal, I think contracts are a lot more movable now.
Carey Price, you were a San Jose Shark. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Chicago, San Jose, I'd put those on the list for sure.
How do you see them? I mean, listen, they're not major players, and they're still going to be they're still going to be bad teams for a while here. We all know about the prospects, but it takes a while for these guys to all develop, of course. And we just went through the draft, and there's more. But how do you see teams like San Jose and the Chicago Blackhawks fitting into what we're going to see in the next few days? Just by way of, you know what? We'll take your bad contract, sure, but you got to send us some our way.
Yeah, I think they're going to be active. I mean, they have money, they have to spend. I mean, like San Jose is only at 44 million cap hit right now, right? So they got a lot of money to spend just to get to the floor. And so do they want to do it? The model, like we saw with Chicago, was overpaying on 1 and 2 year deals for veteran guys to add some money. San Jose didn't really go that route. I mean, they signed Toffoli to a decent deal, but it was 4 years. I think what these teams will have to be cognizant is at some point they do want to be good and make a step. And if you have these long-term commitments, that makes it difficult. I mean, the obvious example people point to is Toronto when they signed Tavares, and at the time it seemed like they had plenty of room, and then it obviously complicated things as their star players came off their entry-level deals and they needed to get paid real money. So I think like San Jose in particular, they've got Celebrini is going to get a huge deal. You need to watch for that. Chicago, it seems like, maybe that Bedard contract's not going to be quite as big as initially thought, but they also have probably more volume of guys that seem like they have potential to really hit. So these teams have to be careful. Like they need to spend to get to the floor. They need to spend to put a competitive team, but they don't necessarily want to hamstring themselves going forward, especially if it's a good problem to have, but if they have 3-4 guys that are going to be, in the $10+ million range in a couple of years, you got to start factoring that in already.
I was having a conversation with someone at the Combine who said, like, look, I don't think that Bedard's going to do his deal right now. Probably do the extension sometimes during the season. But he said, like, look, I expect it to be a $10 million AAV. They're building this whole thing around him. Do you agree with that, Hart?
I think so. I mean, if he's not going to get that, like, why sign long term? I mean, from his perspective, I certainly think play out your contract and see if you're coming off a better season. I mean, I think also we're going to have to get used to, like, $10 million isn't what it used to be, right? Like look at Noah Dobson. There's a lot of sticker shock, $9.5 million. Yeah. But just a few years ago, like,
I don't know how they make ends meet at $10 million. How can you make ends meet?
Just a few years ago, like $9.5 million was like $7.5 million, right? So like,
of course,
$15 million in a couple of years will be the new $10 million. So it's just the way that the cap is increasing. We've been in a state where basically 5 years it's flat. You get used to everything kind of feeling equivalent, and you don't have to factor that in, and it's going to really change. So if you can get Bedard for like, $10 million, to me, that's not an 8 year number for him. That's probably a little bit shorter. I think you rush and you sign that right away before he changes his mind.
This has been great. Very much looking forward to working with you tomorrow. Hart Levine, the curator, the brain trust, the nucleus, the nerve center, all of it, of the great PuckPedia. Thanks, pal. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow morning. You're getting up early for us.
Thanks so much. Very early. Yeah. Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Get the coffee on for Hart Levine from PuckPedia. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm very much looking forward to working with Hart tomorrow. Don't forget our free agent special goes 11 a.m. Eastern in through to the afternoon. Right now it's targeted for a 2:30, I think, cease and desist, but I can see it going a little bit longer. The day's going to be like that, folks. All right, time for our next guest, and this segment is a presentation of Budweiser. Budweiser is encouraging buds to make time for hockey, not excuses. Every goal, every check, every win is better enjoyed with your buds. Phone a bud, text a bud, ping a bud, and call out their excuses for bailing on hockey when it's hockey time. It's go time. Pleased to welcome to the program someone I've wanted on for a while to recap what we just saw. The good, the bad, the ugly, the tacky at times, the cringy at times. Los Angeles. Oh boy. Hey, Cam Robinson from Elite Prospects. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, pal. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I really don't like to just treat something like a piñata, especially after everybody's had a whack at it. The candies are gone. The parents have come home to pick up the kids. The pop and chips are all done. And I don't want to just keep beating on what we saw on Friday. But it's not as if the commissioner didn't warn them all. Like, this is clearly something that Gary Bettman in the NHL was not in favor of. And they tried. I feel bad for Steve Marek because I think he really gave it a shot to try to make it entertaining. But given the limitations, it was something that was probably doomed, Cam, from the outset. Agree or disagree?
I agree. And like you said, is that you got to feel for Steve Marek because, from his side of things, he sets up all the NHL events for people who don't know, is that it was well set up, especially for the media. So for my work, maybe one of the best setups. We had the internet worked. We had great sight lines. We had to walk half a step to get to the players for their interviews afterwards. All that was really smooth. That was really great. But they were up against it without all the teams being there. Normally the draft takes over an entire city. The whole hockey community, it descends upon Nashville or Montreal or Las Vegas. And even, in a place like Las Vegas, it maybe doesn't take over the entire city, but much of it. This one, the NHL kind of took over LA Live, this little concrete jungle in downtown LA, right around crypto.com. And outside of that, nobody really knew. And you didn't have the opportunities to meet and mingle. And I know that the teams, some of them really enjoyed having that quiet space to make their decisions in during the time. But I know that they felt the loss of that social aspect as well. And not just the scouts going out for pops afterwards, but actually like the GMs and everyone working together and being able to facilitate things. And what are you hearing? This is what I'm hearing. This is what I have going on. So that was all lost. And then, of course, the awkwardness, the technical difficulties. I think, like you said, Gary has not been shy at saying this was not a league decision. This was, we told you, we warned you. And, he might not have been overly disappointed with how difficult it was so that he could be like, and did I tell you so?
His line that I will take away from the weekend was, "We're here to serve. This is what they wanted. We're here to serve." Yeah. This was a home run for the New York Islanders, and not just with Matthew Schaefer, but let's start there. As great a player as he is, and I remember you and I talking about this in like November, maybe even before Cam.
August.
Was it August? Yeah. The head and shoulders above everybody else in this draft, and that's only part of it. The Islanders are getting someone that they're going to be really proud to wear their sweater for as long as he's going to play in the NHL. Like, they got a great player, they got an even better person. Not a dry eye anywhere. Not a cold heart anywhere when he kissed the breast cancer ribbon on the Islanders jersey. And by the way, kudos to the Islanders for doing that in the first place. It was a sublime moment for a sublime player. Your thoughts, Cam Robinson?
Yeah, that was, and I put this out there right afterwards, and not something that I've really spoken about publicly at all, but I lost my mom this year, and that moment, and I know I talked to Matthew about it through the year a little bit. We talked about it, but that moment, like, I was choked up. I had to hold back some emotion myself during that, and I think that a lot of people felt that way because it was such a raw and human moment, right, where you get to see. And these are still just 17, 18-year-old kids trying to reach their dream, something that they have, committed their entire worlds to up to this point. And so that just flow of emotion coming out of him. And it just shows, again, he's he's a spectacular human being, and there's always brightness coming from him, and there's positivity emanating from him, despite the things that he's had to go through. And I think you're absolutely right that the Islanders have a supremely gifted hockey player, but an even better human being, and someone that's going to represent their franchise extremely well. Someone who I could
100%.
envision wearing the captain's C, for years and years.
Absolutely.
There too. And so that was definitely the pinnacle of the entire weekend, which would have, I think, even been amplified further if it was centralized and it was the traditional way. But they also did very, very well with the rest of their picks too. And I think a lot of that they were fortunate. They didn't expect it. Matthew Darch said that we did not expect to have Keyshawn Aitchison and Victor Ekblad sitting there at 16 and 17. And when they looked to move those picks to get James Hagens, it was, they didn't think that type of player would be available for them. And so to get those two players as well in the first round, and then to mine the talent that they got on day 2 with Prokhorov and Romano, Lorilla, they did very, very well. A plus, they won the draft for sure.
Oh yeah, they nailed it. I know we all know they were trying to move up to get James Hagens. Wasn't gonna happen, didn't happen. But we want to talk about like a plan B. Ekblad and Aitchison, that's really strong. And by the way, Cam, welcome to the world's loneliest club. I joined when I was 16 years old.
Yeah,
I joined when I was 16 years old. I know it, and everyone here offers condolences. Who else did it for you? And by the way, did you see that note online that popped up from a gentleman by the name of Kevin Ferguson about Pat Falloon and the Philadelphia Flyers?
No, I did not.
So the Philadelphia Flyers took Porter Martone, 6th overall. When Pat Falloon was traded to the Philadelphia Flyers in 1995, okay, the picks that went the other way turned into Daniel Briere and Mike Martone, Porter Martone's father.
Nice. Very nice.
Wild one, eh? Just throw that little spice, little flavor puck in there for you. Anyway, Flyers went, if we can get on the Flyers page here really quickly, I got this down here. So 6'3", 208, 6'4", 183, 6'6", 232, 6'1", 198, 6'6", 212, 6'5", 195, and I think they were looking at Simon Wang. If they hadn't have made that trade with the Penguins with the 31st pick, I think they were taking the big defenseman from Oshawa. Philadelphia Flyers went size. Cam, the Flyers are back, baby.
Broad Street Bullies, hey, the Redux. They definitely had a type coming into this class, and they stuck with it. I'm a huge Porter Martone fan. I think that was excellent at pick 6. I think that anywhere, and I talked to Porter about this afterwards, is that basically from 4 till 7, those 4 guys in that zone, they didn't really know where they're going to end up, but they knew they were going to probably fall in line in somewhere in that. And so for Martone at 6, I think great value. I think they left a little meat on the bone jumping up to get Jack Nesbitt when they could have maybe sat back, and if he was there, just taken him. If not, gone a skill play there. But obviously they like the power, they like the size, they like the potential. And then, like you said, Hamiko at 38, huge person. Shane Van Sag,
massive.
I think he is a first round talent that they got at 48. I think he has a lot of power forward elements that's going to allow him to play like an energy line role on a third line that's going to be a playoff type of guy. And then Jack Murtagh, not the biggest player, but he's got pace, he's got IQ, he's a battler too. So I think Philly did mined a lot of value on day 2, and they're coming out with a much deeper prospect pool than they came in with.
Brady Martin is someone that really rose throughout the year. You and I talked about him at the Combine. You and I were talking about Brady Martin, where he's going to end up. Now, I was firmly convinced he was going to Utah. All the signs were he was going to Utah at 4. He ended up going 5. Utah took Caleb Desnoyers. Utah, interestingly enough, was the only team that visited the farm. I would have thought that there would have been more teams. I would have thought that Nashville and Philly and Boston, all those teams around there, if you're really looking at Porter Martone, considering how much it is part of his story and his background and his makeup, I was shocked that Utah was the only team that visited he was there for the draft. He didn't go, no, I got stuff to do at the farm. I'm here at the farm. I'll set up the big screen and sit on the tractor and watch this thing. But Utah was the only team that actually went to visit the farm in Elora. That one surprised you.
Yeah, and that was part of the reason why, we had intel going back a little bit that not only did he just wow everybody, including Utah, at the combine with his interviews and, having GMs in stitches in the whole room, cackling, is that he impressed them again as like the hardworking individual, well respected, all that, that Utah was really dialed in on him too. And right before the draft, I just got a little nugget of information with how they kind of communicated their last thing, where it had more of like a, good luck to Brady versus, looking forward to see him on Sunday, which led me down that this is going to be Caleb Desnoyers. And I think that they just wanted a little more two-way guy, someone that could fit into their lineup that they're perceiving in the next 3 to 5 years, where I think they really, really liked Brady Martin. I think that would have been their second choice if Caleb Desnoyers wasn't there. But for Nashville, this is a highly, highly competitive player. And like the farm is, like you said, it's such a big part of his world. Is that, I was told that NCAA teams had come knocking, can we get this guy? Can we recruit him? And basically Brady's like, I'm either going to be a hockey player or I'm going to be a farmer. Yeah. Or I'm going to be both. And those are the options, right? Yeah. And so, he is highly, highly committed to that part of his life.
It's funny too, because I thought Nashville was going to take Desnoyers, mainly because Barry Trotz at the Memorial Cup was all, and Gardner McDougall laughed about this when we talked to him Friday, me and Pierre during our draft show. Barry Trotz was all over Moncton. And nice. all over Desnoyers. And then that's why, maybe, Utah grabs him and was like, that was the guy that Barry Trotz really wanted here. Michael Misa goes second to the San Jose Sharks, to which Cam Robinson says,
amazing. Terrific pick. I think obviously Matthew Schaefer would have been the perfect pick for their organization if they had stayed at the pole position there, because it would have knocked Sam Dickinson down to a number 2 role, which I think he's going to be better served long term. He has so many great tools. He's physical package, everything's there for him, but I don't know if he's going to be that true number 1 guy who's going to eat up 28 minutes, and he might, because he took another step forward this year for London, and we're going to see him in the NHL next year. Schaefer would have been perfect, but if you can't have Schaefer, being able to stack Macklin Celebrini and Michael Misa down the middle, being able to move Will Smith over to the wing and have him play make off to the side of Celebrini, all those pieces fit just beautifully into a puzzle for the Sharks. And I think that they are nearing the point now, and it won't be this summer, but perhaps next summer, that they start to say, okay, now it's time that we overspend on a highly impactful free agent, maybe a Kaprizov, perhaps, or we go out and we spend some of all these young assets we've recruited now to purchase. That guy. When Chicago went out and got Marian Hossa, right? Where you spend a little more than you should, but you get that piece that can start to push you over the top. And I think San Jose is going to start to get into that zone, similar to what Columbus is looking to do right now.
Jake O'Brien goes 8 to Seattle. I really like this player. Highly skilled, has room to grow into his large frame as well. Gary Roberts was hired by the Bulldogs, the Brantford Bulldogs, as the director of player development. So that, not just O'Brien, but everybody on the Bulldogs is going to be on point when it comes to things like nutrition and their training. So I don't worry about him not getting to NHL size. And now that he's gone to the Bulldogs, I kind of think he's going to get there early. And he likes fishing, so it's perfect that he goes to Seattle, for crying out loud. Let me close on this one. Quick thought on Jake O'Brien. I was kind of surprised that he was still there at 8, to be honest with you.
He was a wild card. I think he had that disruptor potential. I think, again, a lot of teams did like him. I think that he was even considered up as high as 2, that it was consideration up that high up on the board as well. So he's one of these players, and I've made the comparison a few times, Elias Pettersson, that wiry frame, the creative and electric handling ability. He has a pretty good shot. He just doesn't use it enough. Now, I found out something interesting about O'Brien too. So he weighs about 170 pounds right now. Yes. He kind of looks like he's got sticks coming out of his shirt sleeves, right? Yeah. He has put on 25 pounds of muscle in the last 2 off seasons combined. So that alone, coming in at 145 into the Ontario Hockey League, and he's played big minutes the entire time. His size hasn't been an issue whatsoever. And he's been able to stack on that much weight. I don't think that's going to be an issue for him to get up and play at 185 or 190 when he's in his prime of his career. And when you add all the skills that he has, I think it's a home run for Seattle, who needs a genuine superstar. And not to say that he's going to 100% get to that level, but I think that of the players remaining on the board there, that he 100% had the highest ceiling to make it and to be a true impact player for the Kraken.
and then afterwards, the Kraken rattled off 4 defensemen right away. It's like, okay, we need D. We've got like Beniers and Wright and Catton, and now we've got O'Brien. Let's start to address the positional need here.
Yeah, for sure. And like Blake Fiddler in the second round, I think that,
Nice
a
pick.
right shot defenseman at 6'4", he was in my first round. And I think that probably a few teams had him right around there and it just didn't work out. So getting him at 36 was really good. Even a guy like Carl Anborn at 205, I think has NHL potential. So they're mining talent. But like you said, is that, they're pretty stacked up front now. And again, some of those names you mentioned, Berkeley Catton, and then someone's going to have to move over to the wing long term. And I imagine it's going to be Catton. So now you've got a Catton playmaking off one side. You've got an O'Brien probably playmaking the middle on a different line, and you've got all sorts of talent down the middle to supplement them too. So now you get a little more size on those wings too, and they should be cooking.
In the Botterill era, Cam, it's been great and long overdue. Great work as always on Elite Prospects. Look forward to catching up again. You be good.
Appreciate it. You too, pal.
There he is, Cam Robinson from Elite Prospects, which is, as much as we talk about always having PuckPedia up, and we do, keeping that tab open. EP is the same for me as we're trying to get Cam's shot off here. I think it might be locked on. It might be locked on you here, Cam. Oh, there we go. There's the 2 shot.
Not getting rid of me now, hey? Yeah,
there we go. What's Zach? Zach just went out for a smoke. That's fine. You gotta switch brands of cigarettes, by the way, Zach. Those are making you cough. All right, Cam. Thanks so much for stopping by. As always, you be good.
Take care, pal.
There he is, Cam Robinson from Elite Prospects. Coming up still on the program, we have something from. There we go. Back to the one shot. How you doing there, pal? Zach, you with us today? Zach's too busy in the chat. Is Zach around? No? Maybe? Yes? Zach, this is your segment as we're going to wrap up the program here. This is what we need. You there, Zach? This is one of the issues where you do shows remotely. Oh, hang on. Am I off? I might be.
All right, I think we're good.
You got me back?
Yep, I got you now. There we go.
What happened? You turned around and there I was, gone?
I was the one that somehow got lost this time. I had to get some support to help us get some cameras.
Nick Caroli?
So that yes. I don't know what the hell happened.
Calling the reserves. Hey, you called Nick. That's what we all do.
Yeah.
Oh shit, call Caroli. Okay, crap. I don't know what to do yet.
Yeah.
Call Caroli. Call Caroli.
Yeah.
Better call Caroli.
I don't know how that happened, why that happened, but it looked like my internet dropped there. So you were still going. Show was good, but I was gone.
You know what they say,
And I was
Zach.
in a
You know what they
panic.
say, Zach. You know what they say, Zach. You know what they say.
Yes. There's nothing like a well-produced show. This
No.
is nothing like a well-produced show.
A mediocre man is always at his best.
Oh, okay.
A mediocre man is always at his best.
Whew, that was pure panic there for a couple of minutes. Sorry. I just lose the computer, lose connection, everything. I'm like, uh-oh, I have an issue.
I just felt bad for Cam because I just signed off with Cam, and then we still have the 2 shot, and it's actually a 1 shot on Cam, and he's just got to sit there doing dog face for like 10 or 15 seconds.
I know. Jeez. Sorry, Cam.
That's awesome. That's all right. It's good prep for him. It's good prep for him.
Well, we got
again,
through
like
that,
the meaning of my life is to serve as a warning to others. All right, let's finish up the program here. We have one more segment here left to get. And by the way, I want to remind you tomorrow. Really looking forward to it. You heard Hart. By the way, Hart was awesome. That's the first time we've had Hart Levine on the program here, and I thought Hart was tremendous. And he's going to be a large part of our coverage tomorrow of Free Agent Day. In the meantime, as we like to remind you at this point of the show, the sheet is powered by FanDuel. Home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. What is a major sports moment that matters to us today, Zacharoo?
So the reason I bring this one up is because the Corey Perry conversation was going on.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this from like a conspiracy tinfoil hat type of lens here, okay?
Oh, jeez. Okay.
To advance to the Stanley Cup Finals
Oh, jeez.
out of the Western Conference, Jeff, here are your odds. The Edmonton Oilers, Top, Colorado Avalanche.
Hang on a second. Why is Colorado still there?
I don't know, actually. It's a good question. I don't know.
Since they won the Cup and then flamed against Seattle the year after in the first round, again, hasn't the story been the flame out? Why is Colorado? I get it, like Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, and that's wonderful. But why is Colorado still there? Are they like the new Sharks that everyone's going to bite on every single year? Like I used to every single, it's their year, it's their year. And I've bid on the Avalanche every single year. It's their year, it's their year. Why is Colorado still in that mix?
It kind of gives me that same feeling of what you just said about San Jose, and like also what happens with the Leafs, where like each year it's like, they're not going to, and then it's like, yeah, they'll do it. This is the year that it happens. This is the year they take a step, and then if you look, and something I've done a lot, where you look at the betting odds in the markets, it's like they just get respect because they kind of get talked about a lot. I feel like it becomes a public. Yeah, and it just becomes like a public thing that's like, okay, yeah, we'll get behind this, and then it moves up and up and up. So I feel like that maybe. But the ones I think are not getting enough attention here, Los Angeles Kings plus 1,000. I mean, if they land Corey Perry, they're going to the finals, right? Like that's what he does.
That's the rule.
Finals.
That's the rule.
So
Dallas,
what are we doing?
Pay attention. Tampa, you want to get back there. Like, I don't know, bring Corey Perry
Just
back.
bring Corey Perry in. So I think that we should be, for the advance to the Cup Finals market, we should just be keeping an eye on where does Corey Perry go. It's not to win the Stanley Cup. We're not betting on to win the Stanley Cup. We're betting on who goes there. And it's whoever has Corey Perry. So that's where I think we need to be looking. And if it's the LA Kings, then...
I hope that, and if Corey Perry ends up signing with the Los Angeles Kings tomorrow or on the 2nd or whenever, all of a sudden, like they gotta flip with Colorado because they have the Corey Perry factor. Here's what I hope.
Yeah,
it seems like Corey Perry wants to play forever. Seems like Corey Perry wants to be the last man standing from the 2003 draft, and that's cool. What I hope is that Corey Perry plays hockey long enough, like can still play long enough for Anaheim to be good again and win the Stanley Cup with Corey Perry. And then he can end his career.
And then he goes to center ice and he takes his skates off and walks
my
off.
Heart. Oh, yes. Oh,
and
now
he's up in the crowd somewhere waving at him.
And Timo Solani and the 8 drunk Finns that traveled around with the Anaheim Ducks in 2007 just all buckled. Yeah. Ryan Getzlaf, who's the general manager of a team by then, has left the NHL Department of Player Safety is there. And he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame by then. He's like, hey, Corey, what's taking you so long, man? I just got in the Hall of Fame and you're so effing around playing hockey. What's wrong with you? We're in the same draft, bud. What are you doing? I'm already in the hall.
Into
we got an NHL job.
The darkness. Yeah. Yeah.
Good thought,
that's a perfect
Zach.
way to go out.
Well done. Good thought. Okay, listen. Once again, I want to remind you tomorrow, please join us at our Daily Face-Off YouTube channel. That is right here where you're watching now. If you're listening on Spotify, on Apple Pods, if you can find some time tomorrow, I'd love to have you aboard to our Daily Face-Off Free Agent Special starting at 11 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. And on the program tomorrow, will include, but not exclusive to, yours truly. I'll be on a panel with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohen. Expect Ranger talk. Tyler Yaremchuk hosts the entire affair. Hart Levine, who you heard from earlier today, here on the show from PuckPedia, he'll be aboard. Carter Hutton, Matthew Barnaby. Man, Barney was awesome with me and Pierre talking about Matthew Schaefer on Friday, and Carter Hutton just like that guy delivers. Stephen Ellis and Matt Larkin will all be aboard as well, and I would imagine some special guests along the way. We shall see what transpires. It all gets underway 11 o'clock Eastern. Hope you can join us for all of it. If you can't, drop by and join us for a little bit and get caught up on everything that's happening on day one of free agency. Thanks to Hart Levine for stopping by. Thanks to Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects for stopping by. Thanks to you for stopping by, either watching live on YouTube, watching in the archive on YouTube, watching on the chat. Much appreciated. Leave comments underneath the video here on YouTube. That helps, as do the likes, as do the subscriptions. We love you, love you, love you. We don't ask for much. Just like click a couple of things. And all the reviews on Spotify, Apple Pods, etc. It all helps. Again, we don't ask you for much. just hit a couple things. Say a couple of nice things. And do your pals good. Thanks for joining us. No sheet tomorrow because it's going to be the free agent special. The program returns on Wednesday. Greg Wyshynski, I believe. Zach, I was texting with Wish earlier today. He can't do Wednesday, so probably Thursday for MVSW this week. So there you
perfect.
go. I just thought we'd do our production meeting here live on the air to conclude the show. Yeah, why not? Keep it a little loose around these parts. All right. Thanks so much for dropping by. Thanks for being part of the program today. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you on our free agent special tomorrow. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.